We are live. And guess what? Not only are we live, Evie, it's 12:29. What is going on?
Spot on.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Yvonne? So nice to be here once again.
Yes, yes. It's I'm feeling very kind of chilled, I guess, with the autumn season. I'm kind of in that flow right now. That kind of lovely, yeah, that's how I feel. It's all good.
Fabulous. I mean, I still have not gone off the summer mode, to be honest with you. Still nice and warm and swimming weather. So
Nice.
that's good.
Nice, yeah. This is not feeling like swimming weather here. Certainly not outside anyway. It's nice and it's fresh and it's gorgeous. And this is my favourite time of year. But yeah, swimming weather. I don't know. Maybe cold water swimming. Who knows? Possibly a thing. Possibly a thing. Possibly. So, Evie, what have we got this week? What have we got this week on our myth-busting session?
We are myth-busting the myth of balance, basically. And yeah, that's very, very interesting, I think, because we always talk about balance, and we talk about balance in a very positive way, don't we? Like, oh, we have to be in balance, we have to do this, we have to do that. But I suppose there is balance and there is balance. So let's talk about that first phrase, like, I have to keep everything in balance. What does that mean to you, Yvonne?
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I have found myself in recent years, and I mean like the past couple of years, pulling away from the word balance, because when we talk about balance, or when people start perceiving balance, it's that everything is like this. Everything is here. Everything is balanced. And life ain't like that. In my experience, that doesn't normally happen in life. Everything is balanced. So I mean, I prefer to think of harmony, and I always think of harmony like as a circle. So there is harmony, but the pieces aren't necessarily even. There may be an area that needs more attention, and it gets that, and it keeps everything in harmony. So I personally have really shifted away from using that term. So when I think of I have to keep everything in balance, I do feel that there is a pressure. There's kind of like a pressure that comes with that everything has to be just so. And I need to ensure that everything is just so. And that will really come up and be quite painful, I would imagine, for the controller.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And also for hyperachievers. You know, you and I have that kind of as one of our saboteurs, although mine is quietening quite beautifully. Thank you very much indeed. But that sense of, you know, wanting everything to be just so, and yeah, I find, I personally have found that it's a phrase that I probably would have used once upon a time, not really so much now. What about you, Evie?
Yeah, I was thinking exactly the same thing. It is, I think balance is in the eye of the beholder in a way. And that's why we should not really talk about balance in that respect. There are areas in our lives that might be in balance, but again, what that means is, you know, like it depends on the meaning that we give to the word rather than anything else. I love the thing you're describing, the circle, because I think that's very feminine, and for women in general, that we like, you know, to have the sense that we are not the sense we are nurturers, and everything is like quite rounded for like that femininity. I think that being able to see things in the circle and see where the attention needs to go is so much more important than thinking everything needs to be even, because nothing really in our lives can be even, and there are times of our lives that we need to allow for certain things to be uneven so we can rebuild and grow. The thing with balance and keeping everything in balance, there is like that caveat of like making sure that everything stays the same. And for a change strategist, I can tell you that's not going to happen, and it doesn't work. And you can try as hard as you like, but that's all you're going to be left with. Trying hard. And we don't like hard, do we, Yvonne?
Oh no, not a fan. Not a fan.
Yeah.
Not a fan. Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? Because balance in and of itself is that even distribution of, and life doesn't work that way. There is not an even distribution of anything at any, I think, at any given moment in time. So for me, the harmony piece just makes more sense, because it's the harmony, the circle means that it's fluid, it's ongoing. And where does my attention need to be now? And maybe my attention needs to be more on this part of my life than it does on the others. But that's okay, because that can work in harmony with that piece that I need to put my attention on. And that feels, yes, as you said, it's a more feminine approach, but I also feel that it just makes more sense. It just makes more sense. And you know, I think that getting caught up in everything has to be balanced means that you then start to actively try and balance out every single piece of your life to make sure, I'm making sure that a quarter of it goes there and a quarter goes there and another quarter goes there. You know, how much energy does that take to manage and maintain that, trying to give everything the same amount of time and energy, when actually it's easier to say, these are all the things that are going on in my life. What really needs my attention right now? Where do I really need to put my energy and my focus? And how will the other pieces flow with that? You know, what needs to happen to ensure that there is flow, there's continuity. But I'm not depleting myself, because the other part of that for me is like when I think about trying to create balance in every area of your life at any given moment in time, is depletion, right? You're just pouring so much of yourself out into all these different parts. You know, is it any wonder that stress levels are high? Is it any wonder that there's burnout? Is it any wonder that we get anxious? Is, you know, and that we are constantly worrying because, oh my goodness, I paid attention over there, but I didn't do that. Now I need to run over there and do this bit. Yeah, too much pressure. Too much pressure.
Too much, absolutely. I think that it is quite interesting when we are allowing ourselves to observe rather than make ourselves be like in the presence of the, I don't know how you say that, like being pulled from each one way, just to ensure that we are creating that thing that we believe needs to be, it's a construct that will create the balance in our lives. When you talk about the circle, it also feels to me like that flow bit, where you can, because you are changing something here, it automatically changes somewhere else, but it changes in such a natural way that it doesn't really feel that you are putting the pressure and putting the like too much effort to do it. And sometimes we do surprise ourselves, because it has happened to me, especially with the positive intelligence, where you are like becoming something that you are aiming to become, and then things are falling into place that you were not really working on, or you were not really planning, but they are falling into place, and they fall into place in such a wonderful way, almost magical, I would say, that keep you balanced in a natural way.
Yeah.
So this is it. But the thing is to remember that, you know, you might be balanced this minute and not the next, because balance is not static, and that is something we need to really understand, and not like, like, beat ourselves up because, oh, we managed it here, but we haven't managed it there. What have you?
Yeah, it's interesting because balance is such a used word. I was literally just as you were talking, I was thinking, you talk about having a balanced diet, having a balanced this, and interesting. We talk about a balanced diet, but yet we don't say, well, you get 25% protein, 25% carbohydrates. We don't talk. That's not what a balanced diet looks like. Right? So it's also really interesting how we use the term, and actually, when we talk about what we really need, it looks very different from what the balance interpretation states. And I think more than anything, if you are telling yourself, I have to keep everything in balance, what you're really doing is holding yourself to an impossible standard. Like everything has to be balanced, everything has to be just so. I mean, listen, if you're out there and I'm saying this and you're like, but I've managed to achieve it, please tell us, because we would love to know,
100%.
how that happened, and and how you hold that together, because for me it just seems like a very impossible place to be, where everything is balanced 24/7 for all time. It, like you said, I always think that change, and as a change strategist, I'm sure that you will understand where I'm coming from with this, is that every second of every day is bringing a change, whether we can see it or not, whether we can feel it or not. There is a ripple effect that happens every second of every day. So this whole thing of, static and keeping everything in balance, the seasons there's a sense of balance, but even still, there is always room for a potentially slightly different flow. And I say that because, being somebody who always looks to nature for a lot of my lessons, you get autumn, winter, spring, summer. We say it's 3 months for each, and actually sometimes it's not 3 months for each, even if that's designated, right? It doesn't always work that way. So even if you're thinking about balance, it just needs to have more fluidity, much more softness to it, because that also takes away all of that edginess and all of the pressure that you don't need. Life can bring enough pressures without you piling on a whole other level.
And everything we do, we need to also realize that it needs to be viable. It needs to be. We need to keep doing it for a length of time. I mean, if something is not viable, yes, you can hold balance probably like for a short period of time. I don't know. It depends on the character of the person. Depends, the wants and stuff. But at the end of the day, when you ask yourself, is this viable? Is that something that I could hold on to forever and a day? And the answer is no. Then you need to do something else. You need to allow yourself to figure out different ways. And I think that, with the flow of things and allowing for the plans to change. I love that, when we put plans together and nothing works at the end, but still we get a result. So yes. Why does this happen? Because at the end of the day, I mean, the plans are there to just give you a guideline. There is no rigidity in a plan, or there shouldn't be. I suppose, because otherwise you cannot deviate from anything, and you cannot really live your life in the way that you want. I mean, that's how I see it. Sometimes, people come to us and they are, they want to put a plan together, and they can get very upset if things sort of like not happen the way they want. Yeah. And when you explain this, for them it's as if this sort of like erases the plan, but it doesn't. It doesn't. So that is what we need to have in mind. And I love what you're saying about nature, because that's exactly what the nature always has a plan, I suppose. But
absolutely,
not everything happens at the same single time. Even
Exactly.
you know, like fruit.
Mm.
Sure, at the same time. There are reasons for that, I suppose. And I'm not horticulturist. Maybe that's an
No,
example.
neither am I.
You know.
But you see, the beauty with nature is that it gives itself permission to flex and flow. So, you know, listen, if winter's a little bit longer this year, so be it. There's a flex and a flow. And if you want to say that it balances itself out along the way, fine. But it allows itself to flex and flow. And I think that rhythm, and we all have the capability of what is that rhythm that I want to have in my life? And allow that to be the harmony that you create in your life, and not be fixated on having everything like this, that rigidity. Have some flex and flow. And that's a term that I particularly love and I use a lot for myself. Where's your flex and flow? If I create a plan, like you were saying, where's the flex and flow with this, Yvonne? You've got this plan and that's all great. You know, if it starts deviation, if it starts going off, what does that look like? And what's the flex and flow that's coming up with that? And know that that's okay, because there's potentially a reason why it's happening. And that's all good too.
Absolutely. And I mean, we know in positive intelligence that playfulness is a very big thing in our lives, right? As adults, we are trying to be as little playful as we can. I don't know why, but we do. So that potentially brings back the playfulness, that flex and flow. That's what it means, actually, that when you give yourself that space, you can play with it. You can really enjoy the journey.
Yes.
Within that plan that you have, I don't know, you have in your mind. And how much better it's going to be, even the result, if you have taken the time to play with it, to enjoy the journey. Because most of us, I mean, let's face it, you get to the result that you want, and you're like, okay, was that it? I mean, why was I like panicking? Why was I stressing? Why did I don't know, like got almost a nervous breakdown here to get here? And why am I not like jumping of joy now for joy here? So that's you haven't enjoyed along the way enough.
Yes. And I guess so if you are finding yourself stuck around that phraseology, and they may not be the exact words, I have to keep everything in balance, but if you're understanding what that means to you and you're like, yeah, that comes up a lot for me, just really identify an area or something to release pressure from this week. Release some pressure. What can I step a little bit away from? What doesn't really need my attention? Cut yourself some slack and give yourself some grace. You know, not only do you deserve it, you also have the right to do that for yourself, and feel a little bit more relaxed. You know, and if ever there's a great time for this kind of releasing, this is it. Autumn, right here in the UK. Autumn is all about that, you know, releasing, letting go as we walk. I had a beautiful walk yesterday and watching how the trees are releasing some of the leaves that it no longer requires. So, you know, anyway, don't let me go off on my little nature talk, because that's a whole other thing. So let's move on, shall we say, to phrase 2.
Oh, yes.
Which again represents pretty much the same thing. I must give equal energy to everything. So, you know, if you think that, you know, here's your pot of energy, right? This is your pot of energy. You've got your work, you've got your children, or you have a partner, you have your friends, you have your family, you've got a personal project, you've got your hobbies, you've got your anyway, so you suddenly have all of these pieces, and now you're trying to pour the same amount of energy into all of those. And notice, not one of those things that I named was self.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually when we start doing this, it's like, what are all these outward people and places and things that require from me, right? When actually that energy pot needs to be, is it even full to do anything with? And if it's not, what do I need to do first in order to take care of these things? And actually, where does my energy really need to flow right now? Do I need to ensure that there is this amount of energy for my business, for my career, because I've got this massive project, and that is the priority in this moment, not forever, in this moment. Thus, I need to ensure that I conserve energy for that. Is it that I haven't really been giving enough time and energy to my family, to my loved one? I need to ensure that that's the thing where my energy is flowing to more of now, and the other things need to deal with that, right? So again, for me, that's just freeing ourselves from this, I have got to be everything to everyone and everything, pour, and nothing gets poured in here. Like that for me is like the worst case scenario that I have with my clients who have been spending so much of their lifetime doing just that.
Because it's like what is expected, or sometimes it is what is expected, and sometimes it's like what you expect to be able to do from you. So your own standards are for some reason like this, and you're so right. It is like energy. First of all, it's not like it's endless in a way that you give something comes back, and it's like a continuous thing. But like when you're trying to do too many things and give the similar amount of attention, then it becomes like just no energy at all. In a way, you're just depleting yourself and keep depleting yourself. And then up to what point can you do that? What is like the end of this at the end of the day? And it's very hard to get out of, I think, the cycle of doing that. You think that, well, this is how it needs to be done, and you, it's like, I think where the term hamster wheel came from. And it's like, so like the constant running, and you don't think of where am I like getting like some back of what I'm giving out. You don't really, you don't even know where can you get some back if you don't allow yourself to stop and reflect and pause and just be for a little while, not for too long. And that is like, we don't give not even that little break for ourselves.
Yeah, and all the time that we're doing that, we're really diluting the impact that we can have. So the impact that we can have, that is within us, just gets lost because it's trying to do all of these things at the same pace, all and round. And like you said, that hamster wheel, round and round we go, wondering why things aren't shaping up, wondering why we're not having the impact we want to have, because we cannot have the impact we want to have by pouring everything everywhere. It doesn't even make sense. And actually, that point of pouring into here first, be the vessel of energy that you want to put out in the world. You cannot pour all of that energy out in the world if your vessel is empty. You are the vessel. So there is really a need to honor what matters most right now. That won't always be the thing that matters, but focus on what matters right now.
Undoubtedly. And it's not necessarily that, some people think that this is very selfish. That, how can you focus on you? But if you don't focus on you, you will not have a starting point for anything. You're just on a constant cycle of like overwhelm. And that is the thing. Anything that we want to do, anything starts somewhere. You can't just from the spinning that you are in, begin something new, or find the brain capacity to actually do something different, because you are in a constant cycle. So if you cannot do something different, you cannot get out of that constant cycle either. So it becomes like very, very bad for you. And I believe strongly with positive intelligence. I mean, that's my go-to thing always when I need to pause. That pausing is maybe the biggest tool that you can give yourself, because by pausing you can like disrupt the thinking. You can disrupt what is not working for you and say, okay, nothing is working for me right now. I am starting from absolute zero. And I can. Why? Because now I'm not reacting. I am putting a plan together, not a rigid plan that is going to keep me here and now I have to go and climb on a different hamster wheel, but like put a plan together that and allow myself to say, this is it. That's where I start from this moment where the realization came, and that I can now change the way that I'm thinking, or have a new idea, or whatever it is at the end.
Yeah. Well, I talk about power pause. I think there's not a post that I put on that doesn't have a power pause, because our ability to pause is the moment to catch our breath, to have a thought, to actually observe our thought or thoughts before we make a choice, before we make a decision. Absolutely. So the pause is necessary. And going back to the energy thing is, remember, we cannot make it. We can only swap it. Energy is this moving thing. So if we're not refueling ourselves with energy by pausing and all the different kinds of practices we can do to allow that to happen, then we're not giving ourselves the resources that we need to do any of the things that we're talking about where we want to pour our energy. How are we going to pour energy into something when we don't actually have the energy within ourselves to do so? Much less equal energy, much less wanting to pour equal energy into things. How is that possible when there's no energy here to do any of that? And so I also want to kind of just say, if that is something that comes up for you, I must give equal energy to everything. What I would say is actually I must ensure that my energy is everything, so that I can go and do the things that I want to go and do. Kind of just like rephrase it. I must give energy to self so that I can go and do. So that you can, and even though the energy that you give to each of these things won't be equal, because they don't all require the same amount of energy, at least you'll have some energy to do them with, right? Which I think is somewhat more important. That's the important bit. Yeah.
I think that the bottom line is, look after yourself, look after your energy, and if you want to find balance, I think the best way to find balance is by listening to what it is that you need, and go and do some work with that particular thing that needs your attention at every moment in time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Be intentional. And stop spreading yourself thin, because not only is that not beneficial for you, it's not beneficial for the recipients either. When there is so much more that I'm saying we because I believe this applies to all of us, there's so much more that we can do when we are replenished, when we are refueled, and when we are intentional about what we're putting our energy into. I have yet to meet somebody, and I'm now thinking about all the clients that I've had to date. I have yet to think that there is somebody who needs to put the same amount of energy into every single thing that is in their lives. Haven't met that person. Haven't met that person. And so again, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, I do, I want to know, I want to hear from you. I want to hear, you know, why that feels so important. And also if you're achieving it, how you're doing it.
100%. Yeah. Let's keep the discussion going. I'm sure a lot of myth busting is happening, so we may as well have this discussions and see what everyone feels about those conversations, and what is some of the things that you're doing or that they resonate or that you're doing differently, right? That is a good thing.
And actually, on the subject of balance, what does balance mean to you when you say it to yourself, or when you hear it? What does it mean to you? And does it resonate at all? Because I know sometimes we talk about, well, you know, we all have the same amount of hours, therefore there's this balance, therefore we should all be able to do. We don't all start with the same circumstances, though. So
No.
that also has an impact. But I'm really interested to know what balance means to others when they hear it, when they use the term. What does that actually mean? And this is where we get to understand the importance of language. You know, be mindful of the words that we choose and that we use, because we may be using it, we may be thinking something else, but actually using it and then trying to achieve it. Even though we're thinking of something different, we may be trying to achieve that because that's the word, it's balance. So, you know, maybe find better wording that's more suitable to the thing that you're trying to achieve, or that you want to achieve, that you want to have in your life. And for me, that is harmony. I will always go to harmony. I want harmony. What does that look like? What does that mean? And what does that mean right now?
It's such a better, I think, way of seeing things. And yes, maybe it resonates with some people and some others not. But like this is a fabulous word, Yvonne, and maybe other people can give us their version of balance and what would be a better word for them in their lives. But yeah, harmony works for me too. Why not? Yeah.
Any word that's going to take you away from trying to get everything done at the same time, in the same way, at the same pace. Any word that you can find that you can utilize that stops you from doing that, great. Because I think balance does throw up that sense of everything must be so, and it has to be in this order, and it has to be just like, yeah, we need a little bit less of that. That rigidity will never serve us well. And then we'll always feel like we're not enough because we can't maintain this thing. And that goes back to some of the other phrases we've already discussed, you know, the not enoughness and all of that comes up and through some of this other stuff, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's find our flow with life's rhythm, whatever that looks and feels like, and be more willing to kind of lean into that than the rigidity that balance can look and feel like. And it may not for everyone, but for those who it does, and then they try to fulfill it, let's just find better ways of operating, kinder ways for self and for others.
Absolutely. Because balance doesn't necessarily mean that it gives you the calm that you want, is it?
Indeed.
Especially if you are trying to find balance, like push. We want to pull.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Well, I think that's certainly my take. I'm going to leave it there. Are you good with that, Evie? Where we are?
Absolutely. Yes.
Fantastic. Anyone who's been tuning in or who watches it on replay, love your comments, your thoughts. What does balance mean to you? You know, where has it worked for you when you've thought about it? And where has it not worked for you? What other words, what other language would be more helpful for you to use? You know, share it, because in sharing what that is, you may help somebody else. And that's also what we want to bring to the forefront here. Is it's not just about our thoughts and what we think and what comes up for us, but what comes up for you, and something that you have, a nugget you have, may well be the nugget somebody else wants or needs. Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of sharing, right? That's what we're here to do. And with that, I will say, at Permission to Thrive, we're here to help you break free from the narratives and the stories that keep you caged.
With grace, not grind.
100%.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you, Evie.
Thank you for this day. Again, see you next week.
See you next week.